Hi, I'm Jeremy, the Zoo Nerd, coming to you live from my backyard in Los Angeles, California. How's everyone doing today? I hope you're well. I hope you're happy, healthy, and having some fun. Today in our Critter Chat, we're going to talk about a very cool group of species of monkeys called Capuchin monkeys. Capuchin is kind of a weird word. It was given to this group of monkeys by early Portuguese explorers in South America because it reminded them of a group of monks in Europe called the Capuchin Order of Monks that wore robes with hoods over them. And these little monkeys kind of have a look similar to that with kind of different tufts on the top of their head. Oddly enough, the word cappuccino is also named after the same order of monks. So both Capuchin monkeys and cappuccinos share something in common. They're named after this group of monks from Europe. Cappuccinos obviously are coffee with a little foam cap on top. So kind of the same idea. With Capuchin monkeys, there are now 17 species that have been identified. They mostly live in South America, with one species going up a little bit into Central America. They are diurnal or daytime active. They are arboreal or up in the trees, but they don't go to the very tops of the trees. Couple good reasons why. One is that they're kind of a medium-sized monkey. Usually it's the littlest monkeys that go to the top because that's where the branches are the smallest. Two, there's predators above the trees, namely the harpy eagle, which is a primate eating specialist. It loves to eat monkeys. So yeah, they stay kind of in the mid-level of the forest where they live. Typically they live in kind of rainforest environments. In some places that's a little drier of a forest, but always a forest. Living in mostly South America, a bit into Central America. They are also a very social species or group of species. They usually travel with other species of monkeys, particularly squirrel monkeys. Occasionally they'll be in the same area as spider monkeys. We'll talk about spider monkeys in another Critter Chat. Capuchin monkeys, though, are kind of medium sized. So they follow the smaller squirrel monkeys and kind of eat things that the squirrel monkeys don't. We'll talk a little bit more about what they eat in a moment. Their social groups can be between 6 and up to like 40 individuals. So they're very social. They hang out in large groups. It's usually a dominant male, several adult females, their offspring, and then some subordinate males or lower ranking males that are maybe kind of teenagers or younger adult males who just don't quite have their dominance down and don't have a group of their own, but are maybe waiting to be the group leader in a few years. They're very strict social hierarchy. Even the females have different ranks of each other, and that comes into play a lot as they move around through their forest as to who gets to eat the food at what time and who, regardless of who found it, a higher ranking monkey and her kids get to eat before lower ranking monkeys. They are also very, very good at communicating. So they have a series of vocal communications. Those include things like screams, squeals, squeaks, chatter, and barks. But they also can communicate quite a bit non-verbally with facial expressions and body language. Some of those that are most often seen are they'll show their teeth. That's sometimes like a friendly thing, but it can also be kind of an intimidating thing, depending on the gap between their teeth. If they show their teeth with their mouth open, that's not friendly. If they show it with their teeth touching, that's friendly. So really very communicative monkeys, very social monkeys. They'll also do this thing where they'll flash their eyes real bright, giving a real intense stare. That is usually kind of a sign of a higher ranking individual or one who thinks they're higher ranking, kind of trying to put the lower ones in their place. With all of these communications, that comes into a big part of their monkey culture and society. They can also understand the language of other species of monkeys. And so as they're feeding with different groups, they know what the alarm calls are for these different species that they might be hanging around with. So if a squirrel monkey sees danger and screams the alarm call, the Capuchin monkeys know what those alarm calls mean. So they're kind of multilingual. They actually can understand the language of the other species. They're medium-sized monkeys. They typically weigh between like 6 and 8 pounds. They're between 12 and 24 inches in length body-wise, depending on the species. Also, the males are slightly bigger. And then their tail is also 15 to 22 inches long. So they have a pretty long tail. And at the end, they can hook onto things and hold on to things. That's called a prehensile tail. It's pretty common in monkeys in South America. It's never found in any of the monkeys in the Old World. So none of the monkeys in Asia or Africa can do that. Only South American monkeys can hold on with their tail. What else? They also have opposable thumbs. So thumbs that work just like ours with their hands. They also can do that with their feet. So their big toes are also opposable. They can grab things with either of their hands, either of their feet, and they can hold on to things with their tail. So they can carry a lot of things if they need to. Females' heads are about the size of a baseball, and males are about the size of a softball. Inside that, they have some big sharp teeth called canine teeth. Those are about 1 inch long. That's all very important because this is a pretty little-ish monkey with a very big head. And that makes them highly intelligent. They have very large brains. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. They are omnivores. That means they will eat almost everything. Leaves, flowers, fruits, nuts, seeds, small reptiles, small birds, small mammals, eggs from birds' nest, insects, definitely. So they eat a little bit of everything, and they're pretty good at catching live food that they will eat. They are also considered highly, highly intelligent. Some researchers have put them on the same level as chimpanzees. That may seem like really extreme thought, but there's some good reason for it. Their complex communication, their ability to understand other monkeys, and a lot of their problem solving and ability to eat foods that other monkeys can't eat because capuchins have figured out how to open it. Specifically, they do a lot of tool use. They were the first species outside of the apes that were identified with the ability to use tools. Scientists' minds were blown when they figured that out. Since then, they've figured it out that it's been going on for thousands of years, that the monkeys have learned how to find certain rocks to crack open certain size nuts that other forest animals in South America cannot eat because they can't get through the thick shell. And they crack the nuts open in certain places in certain ways. Some of those are big nuts that come off of palm trees and other big rainforest trees. And they'll pick the nuts, then they save them, and place them in a place where they can dry out for a couple of days. Then they come back and they bring them to a special place where there's a big rock on the ground that's kind of hollowed out a little bit in the middle, and they have a very specific shaped and sized rock that they'll put in their hand, and they'll pound on the nut until they can break the shell open. It's kind of similar to humans using a mortar and pestle to grind up seeds or garlic or something like that. They'll do that to grind up nuts to get out the good stuff. They also pass on those techniques to the younger members of their troop. Anthropologists who study ancient humans define that as culture. A trait that is learned and then passed on to the next generation is what they define as culture, and Capuchin monkeys have that. So far that there are certain troops of monkeys that live near the coast that use those same kind of techniques to crack open shellfish. They'll use it to crack open things like clams and oysters, and they figured out how to eat something that a monkey normally wouldn't be eating, and they've passed that on to their group. And only that specific group that lives really close to the coast knows how to do that. Monkeys that live like 5 or 10 miles inland of the same species don't. So it's a learned behavior, they've problem solved, and then they've passed that on for generations and generations. They also do this crazy thing where there's some little caterpillars in South America that are apparently delicious, but are covered with little spiky hairs. And when they catch the caterpillar, they'll roll it up in a leaf and then roll it on the ground. And that rubs the hairs off on the leaf, and then they can pull it out and eat the caterpillar without the spiky hairs getting stuck in their mouth and in their face. They have to watch out for some predators, of course, things like jaguars, ocelots, harpy eagles, and large snakes. And if they go down to the water to get a drink, they have to watch out for some crocodiles called caiman that live throughout most of the jungles of South America. Capuchin monkeys, if you saw the photo I posted earlier on Facebook and Instagram, are usually well recognized by people. It's sometimes a classic monkey that people think of when they hear the word monkey. And that's because humans have been captivated by capuchin monkeys for a long time. They have often been captured and used in entertainment. If you've ever seen any of the old organ grinder monkeys that were very popular in the early 1900s, they were street performer monkeys that people would own, and the monkey would do a little dance as the guy turned a crank and played some music, and people would leave change. But capuchin monkeys are often featured in TV and movies as well, and unfortunately they are very common as pets. Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. I am a big anti-monkey as a pet kind of guy. I think it's very sad. People usually cannot provide the level of social interaction that a monkey needs. Monkeys live in groups. They usually need members of their same species to really be happy. If not, they develop some crazy neurotic behaviors where they're kind of going crazy, and it's not very fair to them. In addition to that, they have high complex needs of physical things that they need to do, and most people don't have that ability to provide that in a house. And they can live a very long time. Capuchin monkeys live 25 to 30 years in the wild. They can live into their 40s in captivity, in like a zoo setting or potentially as someone's pet. Although most pet monkeys never make it anywhere near that time frame because they are not getting the adequate care that they need. They can also carry diseases and can be very tricky with that because they're so closely related to humans. They can get any of the same diseases we can get. They can pass that on. They can get the disease from us. It kind of changes in them, and then they pass a mutated form back to humans. And that can be very dangerous for people who live with monkeys. They can also be very aggressive. Because of their unique social needs that they have and their hierarchy, if they live with people, like with a family, they'll usually try to identify who in the family is the dominant one. And then the monkey tries to be the second in command. And then they act out at anyone they think is lower ranking than them. With their big sharp teeth, smart minds, that usually can get pretty serious and pretty aggressive behavior, especially if there's new kids born, babies, or if somebody gets married, they usually don't like the new spouse, or if they have friends over, the monkey often attacks friends, and monkeys just aren't good pets. In addition to that, capuchin monkeys, like their close relatives, the squirrel monkeys, which I talked about already in another critter chat, do something called urine marking. With squirrel monkeys, that means they pee on their hands and their feet and leave a little pea-scented trail wherever they go in the forest. Capuchins do that too, but not quite the same way. They just kind of pee everywhere they go, and that way they can, if they get separated from their troop out in the forest, they can smell their pee trail back to where their group came from, and then they can retrace their steps. With capuchin monkeys, of the 17 species of capuchin monkeys, 3 are listed as critically endangered. That means if something doesn't change, they could be extinct in the next 5 to 10 years. 4 others are listed as endangered. That means if things don't change, they could be extinct within 15 to 20 years. In addition to that, 5 more are listed as either vulnerable or near threatened. And if you're doing that math, that's 12 species of the 17 species. Of the remaining 5 species of capuchin monkeys, 1 we don't know enough about, and the other 4 are listed as not near threatened, least concern. So of the 17, there's a lot of threats facing capuchin monkeys. The biggest threat is habitat loss. Many of these monkeys live in the rainforest areas of South America, specifically in the country of Brazil. Brazil's a huge country. It covers most of the Amazon basin, or the jungle in South America. And a lot of that jungle is being cleared or cut down the trees, 1 for lumber and paper, 2 to grow things for humans to eat. And in Brazil, one of the biggest things that they're growing on the rainforest land is they're raising cows. Brazil is now the #1 producer of beef in the world. So if you want to help out capuchin monkeys and other rainforest animals, eat less beef. It's not always the funnest conversation to have. I really liked cheeseburgers for a really long time, but in 2020 I said I'm gonna be done eating beef, and I've made that change in my diet. And I know you can limit the amount of meat you eat and help out our little rainforest friends by doing a bit more. Also, human conflict is a huge issue for capuchin monkeys. Because they're smart and because they'll eat anything, that also means they raid crops quite a bit. So in places where they're growing fruit, specifically things like bananas, sugar cane, apples, berries, nuts, any of that kind of stuff, the capuchin monkeys often will kind of get together and come and raid the farmer's crops. Then the farmer gets mad. He retaliates by trying to kill the monkeys, and it's a big bad circle. Also, in many of the places they live, they are hunted. Some for people to eat. They do eat monkeys in some parts of South America, but more they are hunted for the pet trade. To get a pet monkey, people usually go out into the forest. They find a group of monkeys, and they will shoot and kill the adults, and then they take the babies to be people's pets. And of the babies they capture, usually 2 or 3 of them out of a group of like 4 or 5 don't make it because they're too little. They can't survive whatever kind of transport they're given to get to where people want to buy them as pets. So I highly encourage you again to not have a monkey as a pet. 1, it's illegal in most of the United States. But 2, all those other reasons. It can be very dangerous, it can be risky, it can be very dirty, and you're probably not going to actually provide the monkey with a very good home. In addition to that, if you travel to places where monkeys live and you see those little places, maybe it's where your cruise ship docks, or maybe it's near your hotel, or places outside of a tourist attraction, and there's someone there with a little monkey, and they're saying, hey, you can get your picture taken with this monkey. Oh, this monkey's an orphan, and you can help me provide for it by taking a photo and paying me some money. Those people know that that monkey's an orphan because they most likely killed that monkey's parents. That's how they got the baby monkey. That's how it's now living with a chain around its neck and posing for photos. So you supporting that, you just keep reinforcing that cycle. So if you've traveled to places where people are doing those kind of things, don't support them. I know it's hard, I know it's cute, but by doing that, you're just causing more monkeys to be hurt or killed. There are many good things that we can do to help out capuchins and other monkeys. Specifically with the rainforest in South America, that's been an ongoing problem for my entire life, that the rainforest in South America keeps getting cut down more and more and more. And there's some really good organizations doing some great things to help protect that. One is called the Rainforest Action Network. if you have some extra money, you can donate some money to them, and they actually buy the land of the rainforest. And then they protect it, and they buy it in big chunks, and then they put up fences and barricades around it and let it just be natural wild forest land. In some places, they've then bought it and then been able to get the government to protect it as a national park or a preserve, and they've been able to get legal protection for huge chunks of the forest that way. There's another organization called the Rainforest Alliance. They have a little logo with a frog on it, like a little rainforest frog, and they certify a lot of different products that are grown in countries that have rainforests. Those countries are doing so in a sustainable way and not cutting down the rainforest to grow things like coffee or bananas or sugar or raise cows or whatever they may be doing. I'll put a link up on the Facebook page later today for the Rainforest Alliance. They are our special shout out today. They do a lot of really great work. I want to talk a little bit about my experience with capuchin monkeys. Earlier today, with the photo I posted on Facebook and Instagram, I talked about how they're one of my favorite species of monkeys. And there's a really good reason for that. When I was a little kid, when I would go to the zoo in Utah, Utah's Hogle Zoo, there was an old exhibit that had been there forever called Monkey Island. And it was a concrete exhibit with some water around the edge, and in the middle was like a playground that the monkeys could play on. And the monkeys that lived there were mostly capuchin monkeys. There were also sometimes some spider monkeys on there, but there was always capuchin monkeys. And capuchin monkeys were the monkeys I first learned what a monkey was. And I always enjoyed watching them. I always thought it was super cool to see how they would climb around, how they could use their tails to hold on, and I really enjoyed watching them. Later in my life, when I became a volunteer at that same zoo, at Utah's Hogle Zoo, I helped take care of 5 species of monkeys, and one of those species were the capuchin monkeys. In fact, some of those individuals were the same monkeys that had lived on Monkey Island when I was a little kid. And I really enjoyed working with the capuchin monkeys. They were super smart. They were pretty energetic. They had this crazy social dynamic. There was one little monkey that absolutely stole my heart. And he was actually older than me, which is not very common for monkeys to be older than the people taking care of them. But his name was Jocko. And Jocko was a very special, very old little capuchin monkey. Jocko was the dominant male in his troop. At that time, I believe Jocko was estimated to be in his 40s. So he was one of the longest living capuchin monkeys in human care, and possibly maybe the world record holder. They're still trying to figure that out. But they don't really know when Jocko was born. Jocko used to be somebody's pet. And after Jocko got to be a mature adult, the guy who owned Jocko said, "This isn't working. He gets really angry whenever I have friends over," because that's what monkeys do. They want to be in charge. And so Jocko was cool with his owner, but was not cool with anybody else. And so Jocko then came to live at the zoo. And that was probably in the early 1970s. And at the time when I started volunteering there, which was in the early 2000s, Jocko's keepers were 2 women. And I was the only guy that Jocko ever saw up close as the volunteer who came in on Sundays to take care of him. And Jocko loved me. Like, Jocko loved me beyond Jocko ever caring about the 2 women who were his keepers. And Jocko, I guess for Jocko, I reminded him of his owner when he had been a pet monkey. And so Jocko would come running up to me, screaming and being so excited. And he would put his little hands out through the bars, and he just wanted to like hold on to me. Well, we didn't ever go in the same space as the monkeys, because again, they have sharp teeth and they can do some harm with those. But Jocko would grab my fingers, and he would just hold on to my little fingers. And we learned that that was a really great time, because Jocko had this incredible bond with me, that the keepers could then do all sorts of medical exams and get him his medication And there were amazing things that could be accomplished with this little old monkey who had a lot of health problems on Sundays when I was there. And it was incredibly cool and rewarding for me to be involved in that. And it's not something I sought out. It's just the monkey liked me. And it was really cool to be able to work with him and help him out. Unfortunately, Jocko has since passed away. He died in 2009. At the time, he was 45. And it's believed he is the oldest living Capuchin monkey, but they don't know his real birth date. They're still trying to track down information on that, so they don't really know. Jocko was amazing though. Jocko was also super geriatric, and like people, when people get old, they start to lose their hair, and they start to lose their vision, and they start to lose their hearing, and their fingers and stuff start to not work as well. And Jocko had all those things. He had arthritis, he had hair loss, he had cataracts in his eyes, he was going deaf. He had a hard time understanding what was going on all the time, and he was still in charge. And Jocko was mostly still in charge because there was a female monkey that was the most important female monkey who also really loved Jocko. And she kind of sneakily said, I'm second in command and Jocko's first in command. And although Jocko never put up a fight for anyone who challenged him, she would. She would come and kick butt and take names and regulate on the whole troop of monkeys. And it was a really great look for me as a new zoo professional, trying to understand social dynamics in monkeys, to learn the importance of this social ranking and why it was important. There was another subordinate male in the troop. He would occasionally try to challenge Jocko. His name was Fang because he had big, huge, pointy teeth. And I think her name was Agnes, that was the leader female monkey. She would step in every time and protect Jocko and reaffirm that Jocko was the boss. And it was just super great to be able to see this crazy social dynamic, but also to understand the importance of that in a monkey troop. One day as I was helping prepare things for the monkeys in their outside yard. As we were cleaning up, I noticed there was a bunch of feathers inside their little exhibit. And I asked the keeper, who was there more often than I was, she was there every day. I asked her what all the feathers were from. And she explained to me a little bit about Capuchin monkeys and their overexcited ability to catch and eat meat. And the zoo at that time had some free roaming turkeys, and that year the turkeys had tons of babies, and the turkeys liked to hang out just outside of where the Capuchin monkeys exhibit was, because the sprinklers would come on in the morning and then the grass would stay really wet and it would be nice and cool on a hot summer day. So the mama turkey would sit kind of on the little peepal fence, and the baby turkeys would kind of run around in the grass below her. And that day, before I was there, the monkeys reached through and helped themselves to some turkey dinner. And they caught and ate 4 of the baby turkeys. And they did that through the fence. The turkeys were outside their exhibit. The monkeys kind of snuck up on them and reached through, grabbed the turkeys and pulled them back in and ate the little baby turkeys. And that was also a good lesson of what it means for a little monkey to be an omnivore, to go after a pretty good sized little bird and successfully kill it. They are definitely good hunters. Later in my zoo career, when I worked at the Phoenix Zoo and worked with squirrel monkeys, which are quite a bit smaller, I did see them catch little songbirds from time to time. A hummingbird one time, sparrows and starlings several other times. So monkeys catching birds happens. They're pretty good at it, even in zoos. What else do I want to talk about? When I worked at the LA Zoo and when I was training to be a zookeeper there, we also had crested capuchins. The monkeys in Hogle Zoo were brown tufted capuchins. So I have worked a little bit with 2 different species. In LA, I didn't work with them as much because I was still training to be a zookeeper, and the monkey area was a place I worked on rare occasion, not very often. But they were super cool to watch, and I always enjoyed being able to go see them. And they always were having babies. I think it was a group of 10 when I started then, and I think it was a group of 15 by the time of the end of my time at LA Zoo, because they had babies. Baby monkeys for capuchins, they are born after a gestation period of about 6 months. They're little tiny. They hang on to their moms for their first 2 or 3 months. Then they'll start to go off, stay on her back for another 2 or 3 months after that. They'll start eating solid food around 4 months old, and they're up and running around by like 6, 8 months. They're pretty good at moving around on their own. They kind of grow a little bit slower than other animals of their same size. Most other animals are usually mature by like 2 years at the most. And with capuchin monkeys, for the females, it's 4 years, and for the males, it's 6 to 8. So a little bit slower growing. That is actually common for primates, monkeys, apes, lemurs. But most other animals mature a little quicker than that. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed what I've shared with you today about capuchin monkeys. They're super smart. There's some really great videos showing them using tools that I'll be posting on the Facebook page later today. So check those out, and check out the other information I'll share as well. Okay, till tomorrow, be happy, be healthy, have fun, stay safe. See ya.